Please join me in welcoming the U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, and it's wonderful to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation, and I thank Aida for that introduction and for the work that she is doing on behalf of civil society promotion here. I actually met her last year in my office in the State Department, and I'm very pleased to see her again today. I also want to thank Sasha Delic, who you will hear from in a minute, who's going to be moderating our conversation. I want to thank all of the university leaders, deans, presidents, rectors for being here, and especially for the students who are here. And I am very pleased to be in this historic theater, and I thank Dr. Goyer and all who have responsibility for the National Theater. This is my second visit to Sarajevo, my third to Bosnia-Herzegovina. And I am here with a very simple message, that the United States believes in the future of this country and believes in the potential of the young people. And I want to hear directly from you, because this city is close to the hearts of millions of Americans who followed the events of the 1990s and worked and prayed for peace. And here I am back in Sarajevo just a few weeks before the 15th anniversary of the Dayton Accords, which helped to end the war and establish a framework for a lasting peace. This theater is a fitting place for our meeting. It has been here over the decades that artists and writers and intellectuals and citizens and activists have gathered to share ideas and put forth their own opinions about the best way forward, to tell their stories. And what I hope is that you, as the future leaders of Bosnia-Herzegovina, will have a story that is compelling and positive, that not only paints a vision of the future, but helps to realize that. I want to hear firsthand about your concerns and your questions, but let me just offer a few thoughts. The Balkans are a critical part of Europe, dynamic and resilient, rich in history and culture. I'm well aware that the history also is filled with pain and conflict. But the people of the Balkans have worked very hard to move beyond that violence and to reimagine and then rebuild a different pathway. When I first came here in 1996, shortly after the Dayton Accords had been signed, people were just beginning to put their lives back together. For many years, simple acts like sending your children to school, or holding a job, keeping warm, talking to neighbors, had posed serious risks. And so the task that lay ahead was a formidable one. But I see, after 15 years, an enormous amount of progress. I see unmistakable proof that the people here, just as people in Croatia, in Kosovo, Serbia, are trying to move forward and not remain chained to the past. Just look around this room. Many of you are university or high school students. Some of you have studied or traveled abroad. Some of you have come to the United States, as Aida has. Others of you are working to support your families. You represent different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different religions. And yet you're here today in this national theater, sitting side by side, to have a conversation about your shared future in the center of a city at peace. So the progress is encouraging, but it is far from complete. Yes, people can now go to work and children can go to school, but there are not enough good jobs. Hatreds have eased, but nationalism persists. And the promise of greater stability and opportunity represented by integration into Europe still remains out of reach. Now, these problems are not unique to this country. They exist to some degree in the entire region. But in my conversations here in Sarajevo with leaders as well as in Belgrade and Pristina, I have the same message. I will reinforce that message. And I hope it will be heard, not just by leaders, but by the people they represent. Now is the time to build on the gains that have been made in recent years. Now is the time to strengthen democratic institutions, to deepen peace between neighbors, and to create the conditions for long-term political, economic, and social progress. Now, for Serbia and Kosovo, this means, among other things, making their upcoming dialogue a success by engaging sincerely and creatively to resolve their differences once and for all. And here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, it means bolstering your commitment to a sovereign state, one that delivers results for all of its citizens by passing reforms that will improve key services, attract more foreign investment, make government more effective and accountable. These reforms are needed for their own sake, but they are also needed if your country is to fulfill the goal of becoming part of the European Union and NATO. Your neighbors have already taken strides in that direction because they know there is no better way to achieve sustained economic growth and long-term political stability than by integrating with Europe. The European Parliament just passed overwhelmingly visa liberalization for Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I believe now is the time for the citizens of this country to make your voices heard, following up on the results of your election. Because although much of the work must be done by your government, leaders listen to people. And each of you has a role to play in being sure your voice is part of this dialogue. Young people have a tremendous stake. I'm hoping that you will play an active political role, although I'm well aware that you have other activities on your minds. Studying, working, starting families, those are all high priorities. But we have to look at what will work for you in the future. It may seem easier to let others take the lead. It may even seem impossible to see any progress, giving rise to cynicism. But I urge you to remember the hard times that your families and this country have already endured, and the toughness and the talents that carried you through. If you channel those strengths now into the difficult but rewarding work of shaping the future you will inherit, you will be the beneficiaries. The more engaged you are, the more you demand of your leaders, the more you can contribute to political, economic, and social progress that leads to prosperity and opportunity for you. And while you do this, you can count on the United States to be your partner. Our support for you, our support for the Balkans is a cornerstone of our foreign policy, but it also represents a deep commitment by the American people. Over the years, we have sent thousands of American soldiers to help keep the peace. We've invested roughly $1.5 billion to help you rebuild your infrastructure, strengthen public institutions, improve education, and foster economic development. We have provided approximately $300 million every year to help the Western Balkan countries meet EU and NATO requirements. And we have invested years of intense persistent diplomacy to resolve conflicts and maintain stability. After I leave here today, I will cut the ribbon on the new United States Embassy compound here in Sarajevo. It's a beautiful facility, and I hope you all have an opportunity to visit there someday. And running alongside that compound is a street that as of today will bear a new name, the Robert Fraser Street. Ambassador Robert Fraser was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for the Balkans in the United States State Department in the months leading up to the Dayton Accords. His work here on the ground helped to make that agreement possible, helped to end the violence and the conflict. Just a few months before it was finalized, he was killed in a car accident on Mount Igman, along with 2 other U.S. officials, Joseph Krusel and Nelson Drew. Ambassador Fraser believed deeply in the cause of peace, and he died in the course of pursuing it. His wife, Katerina, and his daughters, Virginia and Sarah, and his son-in-law, Garrett, are here with us today. They traveled here not only for the naming of the new street, but by their presence to demonstrate a continuing commitment of their family, representing millions of other Americans, to this cause of peace that we care so deeply about. The bonds between Bosnia and Herzegovina and the United States have been forged through harsh trials and historic triumphs. And today we remain committed. This is not only an official position that I convey to you on behalf of my government, but it is very deeply personal to me as well. My husband, former President Bill Clinton, and I feel very strongly that you can succeed despite all the odds, despite all the political problems, despite the history that pits one group against another, that you can succeed. We are optimistic about that. And I hope that today you see that future that we believe in for you. A future where you're part of Europe, you're part of the transatlantic community, and you're part of a nation that is working together to improve the lives of all of the people. No country can do this for you. You have to do it for yourselves. But the United States will be with you every step of the way. Thank you, and God bless you.